Good morning. This morning I'm going to talk to you about who's CSE and how we are using mobility internally and also externally for our customers. CSE is one of the largest IT service providers on the globe. We have 92,000 employees in 90 countries, $16.2 billion in revenue. We're probably one of the largest IT service providers you've never heard of. We have an extremely mobile workforce. If you look at the breakdown of our 3 lines of business, the managed services sector, which is our hosting part of the company, those guys are pretty much stationary. They work in our data centers. But the entire rest of the company is all consultants, traveling around the globe, traveling to client sites, sales calls everywhere. So mobility is very, very important to us, and it's part of our core of our business. So we started looking at how can we start using mobility within our company. And also the other thing that we have to consider is we're a service provider. We sell mobile implementations and ER implementations and all other types of IT services. So we need to eat our own dog food. So not only is it just where can we get the best ROI for the company internally, but it's also what's the best story that we can present to our prospects to talk about how we're leading in the mobility space. So we looked at focusing primarily in the sales cycle to begin with, because sales is crucial to a professional services organization. We run SAP CRM on the back end for all of our sales activities, so we wanted to mobile enable it. And we looked at making the processes much better across the entire gamut, going from our global sales to resource management, labor accounting, asset management, but we're starting off right now looking at the global sales. Additionally, we have a very big initiative around analytics, and we're combining mobility and analytics because this is some of the feedback that we got from our users. So in this next slide, this is our analytics strategy showing the different tiers and different types of solutions and technologies that we're using internally at CSC to make sure we get the right information to the right people at the right time. Mobility now is becoming a bigger part of this because one of the things that we heard back from our pilots with our account executives on the mobile sales piece is they wanted to do more than just be able to look at lead management and contact management. They also wanted to be able to see reports and analytics, to figure out data sales outstandings, which one of their clients are behind in paying, how can we figure out the best discount to get to this customer by being able to do analytics to do that. So they wanted that on the mobile devices also. On the bottom, since we're a large SAP customer, we are implementing HANA, which is SAP's in-memory business intelligence solution. That's a project that has just started up. We are going to layer mobility on top of that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. So our approach to implementing mobility, as I mentioned earlier, we have to eat our own dog food. This is what we go to market with to our clients and our prospects, but it's also the same type of approach that we use internally. And the most important things I want to point out on this slide is primarily the 4 arrows. So step 1 is focusing on business needs, not the technology. The technology drives a lot of business needs because 3 or 4 years ago, nobody was talking about doing reporting on an iPad or an iPhone. Now, everybody's talking about it because the technology is there to make it happen. But it has to be able to be a business driver in order to do that. For us, it's our account executives saying, I need this information on my iPad. Secondly, experiment thoroughly. Do not try to boil the ocean at once. Do pilots, do proof of concepts. This is new to everybody right now. The best way to move forward is do it in little chunks, and then you can get the experience under your belt, and you can get greater buy-in. Implementing this mobile solution, we ran into the same type of issues at Owings Corning around security, around infrastructure. We were a big, huge BlackBerry shop because BlackBerry is very secure, but our employees started bringing their own devices. I was one of them. I was very guilty of violating a lot of our IT policies because I bought an iPhone and figured out how to hack the email system and make it work. So we've come around and said, okay, we have to figure out a way to provide our solutions mobily and securely to whatever type of device our employees are going to bring. Because when you look at our mobile sales force and you look at our consultants, In many cases, they have just as much knowledge, or if not more, than our IT staff. And we actually do a lot of cross-pollination. We bring consultants in to work on our internal projects so that we can get the experience of what it takes to do this internally, and also bring in some of the lessons learned that we get from doing projects with our customers. But BYOD is here, and it's the wave of the future. I remember seeing a statistic that said 97% of all the mobile devices that people buy, they use them for work. Now, you just think about that number. So if you look in this room, 90% of the people that have their own mobile device are using it for work, whether you're blessing it or not. So it's already here. You have to figure out a way to make it happen. And then finally, you want to drive more productivity. You want to scale and gain efficiencies. So it's really about how do we make things easier and simplify? How do you make it easier to do business with? How do you make it easier for your employees to work? And how do you make it easier for your decision makers to make decisions? That's what mobility is all about. If you're thinking about how I'm going to implement or where I want to start, think at that very high level first. Because pretty much your business goals can be tied in. You can tie those three areas into different business goals depending on what you're driving at. If you want to increase productivity and efficiency, then you want to focus on making it easier for your employees to do their work. So you're going to focus on building applications for internal use that increase productivity. If you want to make it easier for customers to buy your product, obviously you're going to create those type of applications. If you want to make it easier for them to strengthen the relationship with you, you're going to focus on those external customer-facing applications. If you want your decision makers to be able to have the information they need at the tip of their fingers real time, then you're going to focus on mobile analytics and mobile reporting. So we choose to focus on the mobile analytics, making it easier to make decisions and making it easier for our employees to do their work. This slide kind of combines all of that together. If you look at the three barrels of mobility, analytics, and in-memory, these are the different products that we're using. As I said, we're an SAP shop, so we're using for our MEP, we use a Sybase Unwired platform. For mobile device management, we use Afaria. In analytics, we were one of the early adopters of Business Objects. When Business Objects 4 came out, we were a ramp-up customer for it. And as I mentioned earlier, we are in the process of doing an in-memory business intelligence system run on HANA right now. And when we look at combining those three, it helps us make decisions faster, it helps us respond faster, make better decisions, and also gives us the ability to predict what is going to happen. That's going to become very, very big. Predictive analysis. So for our CRM mobile sales, the numbers that are on this slide are numbers that we're expecting because we are in the process right now of rolling it out. We've done a couple of prototypes and pilots. Now we're in the process of rolling it out across the company. But these are the gains that we expect to see. And as I mentioned earlier, about making it easier for our employees to do work, increasing their productivity, since we are a very mobile sales force, our account executives, they want to be able to get the information on the go. They don't want to have to whip out a laptop. They don't want to have to wait till they get back to the hotel so they can get connected to a Wi-Fi. They need to know right then and there. When they're going in to see a client, they want to be able to get a quick briefing on, okay, where does this client stand? We had any problems with them? Something's happened that I haven't known about. So very mobile. We're making it easier for them to do their work. So if you look at some of the gains that we have in increasing the field selling time, that's because all the information they need is in their hand. They don't have to go back to an office or go back to the hotel to get the information. Increasing win rates, the more face time that they have with our prospects and our clients, obviously the more work that we can win. And decreasing the sales cycle time. It's all about managing the relationship. If our account executives are in front of those clients, they're going to decrease the sales times because they're strengthening the relationship. We're decreasing administrative times by having the sales force actually be able to update information instead of having to call a secretary or wait till they get back. They can do it on the spot. If there's new information about a lead, a prospect, a client, sales information, billing information. They can do it immediately on the spot. We're reducing sales cost time because we're using our existing back-end system, and because we're going with the Sybase Unwired platform. There are already applications that SAP delivers for Sybase to connect to CRM, so we were able to implement those things pretty vanilla, with not a whole lot of changes to them. And also, we were able to, when we look at using a MEP, we're able to reduce a lot of redundant activities. I believe that we had 2 or 3 different MEP platforms and other mobile platforms internally. We've consolidated and decided to go forward running on the Sybase Unwired platform. So we're able to reduce a lot of redundancy. Instead of having different business units or different countries running their own MEPs, we're doing it all globally. So that's saving us a lot of money. So our value points that we looked at is in a strategic advantage, looking at using a MEP, in this case a Sybase Unwired platform, is because we're an SAP shop, SAP is delivering a lot of applications through Sybase for CRM, for ERP, for all their other back-end solutions. It's very easy for us, just from that solution perspective, to buy the solution, implement it, turn it on, and we're good to go. Now, that sounds nice in theory, but what we found is there's a lot of other issues that come into play around security, around user adoption, around infrastructure, cultural changes, even for an IT service provider such as us. We're improving efficiency with the workflow processes that we're able to take straight out of the box and implement. You know, one of the things that I recommend is whoever your technology solution provider is, if they have solutions that you can implement as much as possible, vanilla, do it, because it really cuts down the implementation time. You know, any of you that are SAP customers probably already know that. You know, you want to try to do SAP as close to out of the box as possible, which, you know, no one can do completely. Same thing when you start looking at some of these mobile solutions. If possible, take advantage of them to buy instead of build. And if you have to build, one of the things that we also found is we started off looking at building solutions that were particular to a device, such as for iOS for Apple or Android for Droid devices. But we're starting to move away from that and building more what are called hybrid web containers, which is really a browser-based solution that doesn't provide the same type of graphic feedback and the user experience that, say, native iOS or Droid does. But using a MEP and building these really enables us to do the bring your own device. Because now we can build an application one time and push it out to multiple devices regardless of what the operating system is. In cases where you do need to have that rich interface, and yes, we do build, you know, specific devices. We're also able to use the hybrid web container to call APIs, to use phones and scanners and other parts of the hardware. So with us working with SAP around Sybase and the way that they're evolving that system, our strategy of using hybrid web containers gets stronger and stronger by the day. So some of the lessons learned from our mobile CRMs and analytics implementations. You know, the number one thing was that we learned from our account executives, which is why we are building analytic mobile solutions, is they didn't just want to be able to have a basic application. They didn't want to be able to just look up information about a lead or about a contact. They wanted to see what was actually happening with that account. So they wanted the analytics as well as, you know, the typical transactional or minimal information type systems. Rise of iPads and other tablet devices, you know, has made it easier to get to data. You have a lot more screen to work with. And users demand it. Our account executives demanded that we go tablets instead of going smartphones for these type of applications. And when you're looking at analytics, having that additional screen space makes a big difference. Also, the process to re-engineer has gotten easier. As we went through this, we learned more about re-engineering our processes internally to make them fit with mobility. And it also expanded our solution to include HANA, the SAP in-memory. Our first application of HANA is going to be a sales analytics application. So we're basically taking terabytes of data, putting it all into memory so that we can get real-time information instantaneously on a mobile device. Change management's not trivial, even if you have a much more friendly user interface. We found this out, that the change management is not just about, here, this is easy for you to use it. It's also getting people to change the way they think about things. Now, it wasn't as big a deal as if you're putting in an ERP system and you're totally moving from one type of user interface that may be green screen to a SAP GUI type screen. It wasn't anything that big, but there was still the natural pushback of, why do I do this differently? Or, how come you guys don't have this application available for my BlackBerry? Why is it only on an iPad right now? So there was still, the change management's very important. Security protocols and policies. Security is a big deal for us. We do, from the introductory slide, about 40% of our business, 30 to 40% of our business is with the federal government, so security is a huge concern for us. And what we found was with BYOD, and with being able to push information out, to our users wherever they are mobily, because of the security policies we had in place, we couldn't do it initially. So we had to start revamping some of our security policies and procedures. We also looked at using other technologies that enable us to encrypt the data on the device, encrypt the transmissions, so that we can still be secure but get the information to our users that they need. Get the user base focused and expand it. It's very easy to say, we're going to bring in 4 or 5 people and do a very small pilot with this group. But you have to think about those 4 or 5 people, or those 10 people, or those 20 people. They need to be the evangelists when they go back out. For us, since we are a very mobile company, our headquarters is in Falls Church, Virginia. Our account executives that are in Dallas or San Francisco or in London, they can't fly into Falls Church to be part of a pilot. So we've got to push the solutions out to them and invite them to join us, to help us, to be the guinea pigs for this. So you want to get a group that's focused and then expand it as fast as possible. And also integrating analytics into transactional or small information based applications into our mobile process is critical for us. And going forward, it is part of our standard implementation internally that if we're going to mobilize a process, we're also going to mobilize all of the analytics and the business intelligence that goes with it. Because the goal is to get to 100% mobile, sometime in the next 5 years. Get off the laptop, get onto a tablet. Most of our users, when it comes to integrating with our internal systems, are not data creators. We're data consumers. We create a lot of data for our customers, but I look at what I interact with internally to our systems. It's more getting reports, getting information. What's the sales strategy in this area? What's our solution there? I don't create a lot of data internally. So being able for us to go out and say we're going to mobilize our workforce within the next 5 years, since the focus is primarily on data consumption, makes it easier for us because we don't have all of the data creation issues that come up. So over the next year, this is our roadmap for what we're going to be implementing mobily. Right now, we are in the process of rolling out the mobile CRM or the mobile sales. We implemented the Sybase Unwired platform at the end of last year. The pilots for the mobile sales are going on right now. I believe our timeline for starting to roll it out to all of our account executives is in Q2 of this year, which is our Q1. We're also looking at rolling out mobile asset management, mobile procurement shopping carts, upgrading our Sybase Unwired platform. And then towards the end of the year, we're starting to move more into some of the resource management aspects of it. One of the things that we really want to be able to do, which is critical for us, is do we have the right resources for the right client at the right time? If we have a prospect, we have something in the pipeline that says we're going to need 50 consultants to be on this project with these types of skill sets. Do we have those guys? Or can we reach out to our partners to bring them in? Or are we hiring the right type of people to make sure that on day one we have the team that we need to deliver? These are all things that are very critical to our business and to our industry. And then I mentioned, the HANA, the in-memory. It's going to be a very, very big deal for CSC. And it's really amazing how quickly it's taken off. In just talking to people internally about, we've got this in-memory solution we're putting in place. What do you think you can do with it? The amount of ideas that are coming from people, from our sales force, from our consultants, from our executives, is just incredible. Because you think about the speed that you can get from in-memory computing, and you tie that into mobile, the whole world changes then. So that's the story of our mobile sales implementation at CSC. Thank you very much for your time.